Agricultural Advisory Board, September 9th, 2024 meeting to order at this time. If we could just start with a moment of silence before we start our meeting, and following the moment of silence, I'm going to ask Charlie Whiten to give our invocation, followed by Nate leading us in our pledge.
Let's pray. Lord, as we come to you tonight, we're so thankful, Lord, to be in a state, in a county, in a country. It's one nation under God. Lord, we're so thankful for the farmers, for agriculture as a whole. God, I pray you just bless us and help us to do your will. Lord, we're all praying for rain. We need it so desperately, Lord, across our county and across our state. Help us, lead, guide, and direct us. Lord, forgive us where we failed you. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the minutes from the June 10th. I believe they were emailed earlier.
No, I was late to email them.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So if we could just review them real quick and make sure there are no changes.
Make a motion to accept.
Can we scroll them down? Okay. I have a motion on the table to accept as written. In a few minutes, though, Elise, if you could keep them handy, the education items here and the road conditions, I think those will come back up in our later discussion, so if we could pick that up. But Charlie has made a motion to accept as submitted by Ms. Moxley. Do I have a second? Rex Blanton has a second. All in favor signify by raising your hands and aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. We have no public comment submitted at this meeting. Okay. At this time, we'll go to discussion number 7, and we'll turn the floor over to Tessa Moxley, our secretary, and the Food Council chair.
Yes, so we had a strategic planning meeting with the Food Council for our upcoming year, and we established our projects, our work groups, and for the Farmer's Breakfast, we're going to keep those during kind of the off-season, so those are going to be held from January to March, April.
Okay.
So we have already some plans for what those will be, but we are looking to also look for feedback and make sure that they are useful and effective.
Okay.
But our next big event is going to be in November 9th, and we're calling it Eat Oconee. Everyone at the table. So it's going to be a partner organizations event. The Food Council is going to talk about the food assessment we did, highlight the main points, and then our partner organizations, which there are a lot of, will be having tables set up, and it's going to be kind of a data walk So folks will be coming and looking at what organizations are doing in the county involving food, land, ag, health, and see how they could get involved or support those organizations. So there will be food and information and just sort of networking as well. So that's in November.
Does anyone have more questions for Tessa? Okay. I have one. How can, as an advisory board, we support the Food Council with this endeavor that's going to involve more folks? And what do you need from us, I guess, is my question.
I think I'll keep you updated. We're going to be inviting a lot of county level folks to the event. And we know that there's already people that will be coming. And we're going to be doing a lot of advertising for it as well. But I'll let you know if something comes up that we could use your help with.
Okay, all right. I did have one question, because I can't remember. On the food assessment, I know we talked about food deserts. That was a big part of it. The other part that I had a question about was, in that food assessment, because it's been so long, I can't remember, was there a section where we were discussing processed, ultra-processed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so we're going to hit the highlights with the initial presentation of
Okay.
the assessment, but we're also going to offer, we're going to be giving the printed assessment to a few different people, and then you can request a copy as well. But that is one of the areas. Nutrition
Yes.
is discussed, and that's touched on in nutrition. It's really an impressive document. It's 75 pages.
Wow.
And it covers everything that you can think of in the food system. So, very impressive piece.
All right. Just thinking about everything that's been talked about recently, and I know we've been talking about it for years, so it's not new to us, but with processing and with additives and with trying to, and I know there's a lot that's involved with the whole holistic view of nutrition and health and et cetera, that was involved with the Food Council. I just curious, that's why I was asking. That was my reasoning. So I think.
Yeah, and if any of you know of organizations that are doing work with this, I mean, it's going to range from ag land preservation to community nutrition, Heal Oconee, diabetes prevention stuff. So it's quite a range when it comes to food system engagement and work. So we're looking to have organizations come and show what they've been working on and be able to receive donations or volunteers or anything like that.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other comments, questions? Okay. All right, we'll move on to ag highway signage. Is that Rex or Charlie or both, or who wants to?
I'm going to start and let Charlie come on in the second part. This is something that's been on my mind a long time, is to put some signage up at the entrance to the county, entrances to the county, to let people know how important agriculture is. And part of our mission is to inform the citizens of agriculture and agribusiness. And I saw a sign not far away in a little rural area of Stevens County with a simple sign just saying that economic impact of agriculture. So, and I was thinking, how in the world can we do this? So I see that the ATAX pays for a lot of things with PRTM, goes and gets ATAX and other people and gets awarded some grant money from that. And I started to put in for it. I saw our article in the paper and I was a little bit behind doing it. I missed the deadline and I didn't have it act together really well anyway, but I want to bring this up for discussion and see where it might go. But in tying it with recreation and tourism, I'm thinking that agribusiness is very much a part of tourism, and I'm trying to get my little speech up, and it would be just as visitors maintain, I can't get my thing right. I couldn't print it a while ago, my printer wasn't working, but just as visitors enjoy the mountains, rivers, and lakes, they enjoy our open spaces too, a field and forest. Agriculture plays a huge role in maintaining this green space. To help visitors and locals alike realize the importance of agriculture, I propose placement of basic signs at the major entrances of Oconee County, to Oconee County, stating the value of agriculture. Wording can be amended or debated or whatever, but wording to the effect that agribusiness contributes $159 million annually in economic impact to Oconee County. That's from our latest USDA published study. So we can I got another part to that, but it's a little bit different, but I'd just like to open that up for discussion and see what y'all would think. I saw recently, Parks and Recreation got approval to get some new signage and some updated signage, and so I don't want to interfere or step on them, but I thought maybe we can work with them, maybe they can help us out somehow, or if not, maybe we can apply for the grant when it comes up in February, I think it is, or maybe the council can help us. I don't know how to do it, I just wanted to get something started. So I did not submit for the grant because we hadn't talked about it, and so let's talk about it.
That's a broad spectrum. I've seen them anywhere from entering an ag area to farmers feed you 3 times a day. You know, you'll see it all on different signage all over the, Georgia and lower part of South Carolina. I don't know. It's something that we really need to look into, I think.
Well, I can research further and find some of those signs for examples. The one over in Stevens County was it was on a small back road, and it really wasn't a major sign or anything. It just said what that applies to the economy, what agribusiness does for Stevens County. So we can research types and styles, and a lot of the tourism signs are pretty much similar, that brown background with the letters and all, and Oconee symbol on there. So we can research some ideas.
I think that most of those what you're wanting are paid through different grants. Like I know there is a new one that Pickens County has recently gotten, that when you enter, like on Highway 123, and you're coming into Pickens County from Greenville, from the hospital that way, it says Lake Kiowee, Lake Jocassee, and it's arrows pointing straight ahead. Also, I think part of theirs is paid for probably with some of the ATAX money from Clemson University, because it also there's another sign that says Clemson, so far and all of that. So I think that's where a lot of that's what's driving that, is that tourism dollar. And I think that's where their signs are coming from. Georgia has a lot of their signs, and so does Western North Carolina, that are other grants that do talk about economic impact in ag. And I think those come from different grants through their state on the promotion of ag. And one thing, and I think it's a great idea, I think you have a wonderful idea, but I think it would be very helpful if our county maybe had a sign at our entrances stating that we do have the farm center. And I know they're a 501c3, but they're part of agriculture in the community. And if nothing except, say you turn on Highway 11 and you're headed north into the county, and it says Farm Center so many miles, Oconee County Agricultural Center. And I know they're doing a lot with the older equipment, the antique, the heritage stuff. So I'm thinking that is another step. Truthfully, I don't want to step on toes. I don't know if that's our wheelhouse or if that's theirs on that, but I think it would be a good way to promote ag.
We would just have to put application into the DOT. It'd be good to have it at the Georgia line, second line, and maybe down to exit 4,
Right.
Highway 24, bringing them up 123.
Right. I think the more events that's held there, the more the county utilizes that, and that's kind of it's not exactly the geographical center of the county, but it's very close. I think what Nick's Quick Stop is the actual, right there at Blue Ridge, so you're not too far away. I mean, you're not, I mean, it's not like lopsided, it's pretty central. And I think that would, we could reach out and let them know that we're looking at it, that it's been brought to our attention, and that could help promote ag. But also, coming from Georgia, to get into the county, whether you're on 76 or 123, you pass quite a bit of farms. You have quite a bit of scenic ag tourism up in Long Creek. I think maybe some of that, just welcome to South Carolina, Oconee County, agritourism, and maybe I know I've seen the tourism signs pointing to whitewater rafting, Chattooga Belle, and those, but maybe we just need to make sure that all that's getting out there. I know, Charlie, you were talking about, that's kind of what the signage you're talking about, correct? Because I think we have two different things.
Yeah, the economic impact of agribusiness.
Right. And Charlie had brought to my attention that we need more ag signs for safety.
Right.
Cattle crossing tractors, and, farming is taking place. We have bike lanes, especially on 11, and tractors can get over, and there's a wide shoulder. And like you said, in other states, there's gravel past that bike lane that makes it easier for equipment and all to get out of the way so people can get around. But people need to realize that that's in use. On some of the mountain roads where you guys are, it's a little scary. Come around a curve and there's the tractor. So I think we have two different needs, I think, that we're trying to address. And maybe, Charlie, we can resolve the safety one quicker if it's just submitting to DOT what we need. Cattle crossing, horse crossing, tractors, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, it kind of, like I was mentioning, has the tractor signs become part of the
The scenery, they just blend in.
They just blend in. Do we need to come up with something entering agriculture area? Beware of tractors or what, I don't know. I'm up for anything. We can, if we need to present something to the DOT and the county, what kind of road signage we need for safety. But I feel personally, the tractor signs and all have become part of the scene.
They have.
Nobody pays.
That's right. People don't realize.
We had an accident on Earls Grove Road Saturday. It could have really been bad. It was bad enough it is. The car was totaled and the tractor was totaled, but everybody was okay. But if we can just make people more aware of a sign that would really be an eye catcher, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Let's be thinking on that, and we could, talk about it later. I guess we could look around at different states or whatever and see what they're using. We could then present it to our DOT and county and see what we can come up with and ask for.
Okay. So
What do you think?
I think it's a great idea. So we have two separate, basically involving the same thing, issues, motions that we need to kind of move forward on. One is the ag signs, and you would need to make the motion. So are you wanting to make a motion for the advisory board to look into grants specific to pay for agricultural signs to promote ag throughout the county? Is that your motion?
Yes, to research types and costs and placement of signs and funding.
And do a presentation, to have a presentation for county council to vote on before the budget
Or
year
the planning commission.
2025.
They need to be, or the council.
Would that be
It's
more,
got to go one or the other. I think signage, Elise, would that go straight to council? Or would that go to planning because they oversee signage?
Yeah, it would probably go, I'm gonna assume, I'll double check with James when he returns. But it should go to planning commission, and then after they discuss it, vote on it, that sort of thing, then they typically would make a recommendation to county council.
Okay, so if we wanted to move forward and hit that, because what seems to always happen is, and we're gonna discuss changing that as well in a few minutes, but we always get behind the 8 ball because of January starting and them starting budget. So Rex, I think that's where the ball gets dropped a lot of times with the budget items, and this would be a budget item. I think the motion needs to be made. We need to go ahead and have it ready within the next month to present to planning, plus we need to go to planning probably October, November, but they've not been meeting some, so,
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure if there is an agenda already pending or not. But we can talk to James.
Okay.
And then we can talk to,
Mike.
Mr. Johnson and see, when he would want that presentation.
okay, because we would need to do that, and we also are supposed to give them an update, so I think we're ready to do
It
both.
might, I was gonna say, it might be easier to kind of do it all in one.
We can do both. I guess my question to you for your motion is, can you kind of, we can have some ideas and some things together, but can we have it by the next meeting?
That's kind of what I was thinking and putting in here. So it would be to further research types and cost, funding, and placement of agribusiness signs, and by October meeting and present
To
to
planning.
and Oconee and council when it's appropriate. That would be like number one. And the second part, or the next motion, would be to research the types and placement of the ag safety signs.
Right.
So it's kind of a
And the
two-part.
right, the safety signs, I think, will be an easier fix, because DOT will do those without a lot of, like, as a landowner, you can ask DOT for a tractor crossing sign, which they don't last long on 11. But you can ask and they'll put them up. So those safety signs, I think we just need to kind of know where we need them and what we need.
For the agribusiness signs, I took a map and I looked, and, there are about 10 major entry points, and I can rattle them off to you, but it's 28, 76, 123, 11, 59, 24, 130, and 178. And a couple of those have two entrances each, like 28, 76, 123. So, and then Charlie suggested for the next set, the safety signs, look at the letter we submitted to Roads and Bridges, or whoever it was, to help clean the right-of-ways that were getting overgrown. He suggested we might use that as a reference point for the ag safety signs, since those are the ag-heavy areas.
Yes, and those are, and one of the roads that got mentioned, I think we got told that it was going to be cut that next week, was Campbell Bridge. But it's one of the ones that there's a lot of safety concerns, because it narrows so much to get everybody, to get tractors and equipment down through there. So,
That agritourism, I don't have it with me. Y'all may have a copy of it, of what the economic impact is of agriculture in Oconee. That would be good to put on the sign.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
Oconee's
yes,
agriculture.
159.4 million economic impact to the county. And y'all can help me with the wording on that, but I got a motion for that.
okay, so Rex has made a motion. We would need a second. Charlie, second.
So I move to further research types, costs, funding, and placement of ag business signs, and then have it ready by next meeting. Present it to Planning Commission when we're ready.
When
that's the
deemed
first-
appropriate. Okay.
That's the motion number one.
The motion one, so we need a second. Charlie, second. All in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
No. Second motion on the table is for agricultural safety signs throughout the county as needed, starting with the base point of the original letter to Roads and Bridges and our county administrator, who was so gracious to send that for us, as points of contact where we need safety signs for ag to prevent accidents.
I know they, you know, the tractor signs and the cattle signs and
Right.
everything are legal signs.
Right.
But I just feel like if we put up tractor signs and cow signs, like you say, 2 weeks at the most, they're gonna be out there and somebody's gonna have them hanging on their wall somewhere. If we had enter an agriculture area, would they not be as likely to steal those signs as they do?
I think this,
It's according to what we put up. What is a legal sign?
the tractor crossing, the cattle crossing, the horse crossing, all of those, the yellow those are the legal signs that I think have to be there to protect the farmer. I think the other signs we can ask DOT, and that would be something to put in the proposal, that you are entering an agricultural area. Pretty obvious where they would put one, but then you have the areas that are outliers, like Mountain Rest, and the northern part of the county, like Ebenezer. That road can get very hairy. I was behind a tractor the other day there. Doesn't bother me, but it bothers a lot of other people. So I think easy to say where we needed to go. You can look at the map that we have over there for ag, and you can see, and that would be easy to do. The other outline areas, I think, are going to be the questionable ones. But the second part of the motion, are you making that motion as well?
Should
or
it
you-
be two motions or part one and part two?
Two motions separately, so that we can move forward separately.
First one's
We
made and
passed.
passed.
Yes.
So the second motion is I move to further research types, costs, and placement of the agricultural safety signs.
Right. So, second? Trent, second. The motion, all in favor, signify by raising your hand. Yeah. And the base point we will start with is pulling the letter out to see exactly what it said for the roads that were listed, because those have identified, there's no need to double do. We've already identified the areas that need that.
Did I send that to you? I thought I took a picture of a couple of things. I can send it to you and y'all can share it with the board if you want.
That would be great, yeah. That would work.
The thing about Charlie told me that there was an accident recently involving a car hitting a tractor, and
Yeah,
so.
that's what he was just saying.
It's very important we do something.
Yes.
What's the speed limit out there, Charlie?
35.
Because one of my ideas was maybe adjust speed limits where it's congested, but we'll see.
I think you can adjust speed limits all day long. When we have events, they have the big flashing signs. They have several emergency vehicles, blue lights, the whole 9 yards. And I'm not joking when I tell you 3 separate times, and 2 of them I think ended up with tickets. I'm not so sure one of them did get in a lot more trouble. They will almost hit your law enforcement. People do not pay it any attention. So I don't know how to get people to pay attention to slow down, but if they don't pay attention to law enforcement in the roadways, they definitely are not paying attention to tractors and farm equipment and animals. So it's kind of scary. But we can work on that. All right. Moving on to number 9. I think you had asked to discuss that, Rex, farmland preservation over development.
Yeah, I think council just did the third reading on the 10-acre control-free, where they can put 4 houses per acre if it has a sewer line, or 2 houses per acre if it does not have sewer. You have to rely on septic, and I think that's the latest thing going. It's a sticky wicket. It's hard to come up with the right answer. Some people like 1 house per 5 acres, and some people say that's too restrictive on the landowner. So I ran across a document in the, again, recreation and tourism reference signs. It got into agriculture and rural life, and it said 1 house per 25 acres. Well, I think we're too far gone for that to work in Oconee, but it sounds good, but I don't think that'll work. But
I think the horse is out the barn on
It
that.
is, it is. We're way down the road, and it's scary because how fast it's happening, how many houses they're putting in, just on Wells Highway. There's probably, I don't know, 500 or 600 houses going on Wells Highway, but the good part is it's close in, it's not taking up ag land. But, there's several developments on Wells and all around the county, Mountain Road. So,
This is kind of a different subject. Is the subdivision that everybody was upset about moving forward?
So the for the individual or the LLC that was, I guess, supposed to that presented that proposal, they don't own the property.
Okay.
So, and if what I'm understanding is correct, again, don't quote me on it, I don't believe so. I think there was maybe a time frame of due diligence maybe or something similar.
So I guess,
And that time ran out from what I understand. So,
and that's not so much farmland where they were proposing, that would be more forestry. I mean, there's a lot of trees there, and I don't even know that that is prime timber or, mature timber forestry to cut right there, because I don't know how much it was managed, but, the other question I have is, and I guess maybe this is something we could ask if the board so chooses, subdivision and density regulations through planning, are they looking at that, or?
So I pulled up what Rex was talking about as far as for the control-free district, so I'll put it over here, and kind of explain it. So this is for any new subdivision. So they've put I know it says draft on it. This will, due to the, subscription that the county has with Unicode, once it updates, this will be in our code of ordinances. It just is not currently, but it was, adopted in, I believe, June, if not July, by county council.
Okay,
So your quarter acre is gonna be your minimum lot size for, property with sewer on it. You've got 4 dwellings per acre. Here's your, front side and rear setbacks. Your half acre is gonna be if you are on septic, putting 2 dwellings per acre, and then your, setbacks as well. That's for residential uses. Your non-residential uses, is, the same as it currently is. That did not change.
okay, all right.
And then I'll just kind of scroll down just so you guys can read this. And it may help a little bit. Like I said, it's more for, subdivisions that could potentially,
Right.
propose subdivisions for in the future, anything that was,
And I guess the next question is, with subdivision and density, is planning or council looking at impact fees or anything there?
So I know the fee schedule did change with
Okay.
the new budget. Off the top of my head, I
It's fine, we
couldn't tell
can,
you verbatim what they are. I have to look at my sheet.
you're good.
But I do know that they did change, and I believe there are impact fees. I don't do a lot with this subdivision, so I have to look at it or have to memorize it on a daily basis. But I'm almost positive that there are impact fees similar to maybe Green,
Okay,
possibly, or, yeah, possibly Green.
okay. So that is the way where you're talking about not over developing. That is really the only recourse that we have left with that, I think, is through that with the developers. The thing is a lot of them though, they'll pay the fees, but that's the only way that the county, I think, can recoup some of it and slow it a little bit, or make it, I won't say necessarily even slow it, because it doesn't look like that's happening in some of our surrounding counties. But they have development standards and fees. And those fees, then the developer has to decide, is it worth developing? Is it worth paying $10,000 per house for schools, or $20,000 in total, 10 for schools, 10 for, I don't know. I'm just saying that, those numbers. But that's the way, that's one control mechanism to help the residents that are here and to help it not be overpopulated. So,
Can you talk about G, letter G down there a little bit?
where it says minimum lot size and maximum lot density provisions do
Yeah.
not apply to parcels created by subdivision developments totaling 10 acres or less, new parcels. So they're just saying there, at least that they're not going to control them if they're under 10 acres? Is that the way I read that? Because it says it does not apply?
That's how I would interpret it. I would want to get James to,
Yeah, I think we may need James to clarify, but
Yeah.
that, if I read it,
but, yes, I would.
what do you think, Chris, when you read that and look at it from a development standpoint?
I'm not sure. I'd have to,
That's
probably need a little bit more clarity myself.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, but I'm not real sure.
What's the planning committee promote?
And I would say that is the case because they're not allowing them to take a larger subdivision, like if you had a total of 30 acres and start naming them different things to break them down so that they can get around it. I think that's, I know an area that was, James and I talked about that's what they were trying to
So
do.
that because a lot of subdivisions or a lot of developments still do it in phases. And so that's, I think, the intention behind that.
That they're trying to prevent them from building the density and saying they don't have to comply.
And likewise, what prevents them, does this prevent them from buying 10 acres and buying 10 next door and then maximizing the housing on each one of those? And if you keep doing that, you could have hundreds of houses.
I think that's what they're trying to circumvent them from doing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that there's not, sometimes it's like when you have a toddler, where there's a will, there's a way, they're going to figure out a way around it, So, I'm not saying that's 100%, but I think they're doing what they can to prevent it to the best of their ability.
And you mentioned trees. I'm glad because people have mentioned to me that the developers just go in and level the ground and just put them in right next to each other as close as they can get them. What happened to landscaping and, beautification and, leave a few trees here and there?
That would be in the subdivision itself regulations, correct? And what they would, and we don't have that.
I don't think we have any kind of guidance on how to develop.
So that's where you go back again to the planning commission for A, development standards, and B, subdivision regulations.
Insurance took care of this before.
That needs to be addressed because we don't want a bunch of just tract homes out there on flat, bare earth that don't look as good as they could. And the environment, I saw something there about erosion and MS4 regulations coming, and that all goes to water quality too.
Well, one thing impacts another, and that's what it leads to. It's just once you take it and it goes into a subdivision situation, it comes out of the ag. Once the farm sells and they do whatever they do, kind of takes it away from us. That's where Tessa was talking about, trying to have as much working knowledge for estate planning and land preservation and being good stewards of the land. That's where our part comes in to educate the people. Because what you're talking about is something that is more planning commission and out of our control. But on the other end, on the front end, we can do as much as we can to prevent it getting to that point. Nate's going to take over his grandpa's farm. Nate's going to, he's going to work the land and do what needs to be done and be a good steward. That's where we're at with that. And, you have 3 siblings and you got to have one that says he's going to stay. Chris will probably be the one to stay out of his. So, but that's where we are. That's what we, that's where we.
I like what Red said about leaving some greenery. We have a problem. You mentioned in the subdivisions and that kind of problem. I was just talking with Trent. When the county cleared off their 60 acres down there, Fairplay was covered up with deer and hogs, and they still are. Hogs going through the yard, rooting up people's yard, and they ran all of them off of that county property. They didn't have anywhere to go. Now, on Wells Highway, they cleared that piece of property, and all the deer are over on my property over on next to Borg Warner. 45 deer at one, soybeans don't have a chance. But I'm going to Columbia Wednesday with the Farm Bureau, and we're going to talk about if the DNR could come in there and move those deer to game management. Either take them up on the mountain or game management in Abbeville or somewhere. If we could, they came on my farm 25 years ago and moved turkeys to Edgefield. Turkeys was real bad. And I'm going to see if they can't do the same thing with these deer. Because this dry year, we've had a hard time as it is, and then the deer eating up the rest. So I know Chris tell you about Will Anderson. They were 45 down there in his field at Jack Dobbins' place last week, really eating it. And they had been clearing up some land down there, and they just pushing them, off on the other land.
It's not just deer. It's bear, coyote, it's everything is being pushed because their habitats are being done
Taken
away
over.
with. We're putting houses. So that causes other issues. One thing, it's like a snowball effect of what affects everything. So,
With government properties and things, they do pretty significant impact studies before they are allowed to build or expand on government land, military base, whatever. So is there any kind of impact studies going on with these developers? How
Nothing I'm
traffic's
aware
gonna?
of.
You hear all the time about emergency vehicles and do we have adequate
Elise is trying
support
to
and all
answer.
that?
No, you're fine. Traffic studies are done, so obviously it depends on if it's a state or a county road. But traffic studies are done if it's, 10 or more dwellings, being proposed, then a traffic study, is required.
But just a traffic study, not anything else, an environmental study. I think that's what Rex is trying to
I
ask.
don't believe so.
Is that correct?
It's both, yeah. The impact of the traffic and the emergency services, sewer, water, everything.
I guess maybe that could be a discussion, something we could have as a topic of discussion is what it does. But that's really kind of out of our wheelhouse, but just on a note of what are the studies? What are we requiring?
I know all our bridges have weight limits on them now, 6 tons.
One more time? I'm sorry.
All the bridges, mainly around Oakway, have weight limits on them. The DOT put weight limits on them of 6,000 pounds.
They seem to be repairing quite a few of the older bridges, and I think that's why they're on there like that.
But if
I
I-
had a detour this morning.
You take an ambulance, it probably weighs 20. Fire truck, double it, so, probably 35,000 pounds.
Say they can't cross if it don't make stand.
That's what it says, that you're not supposed to.
So they got to go all the way around 5 miles to get back to my chicken house if one catches on fire.
Okay.
And it would burn up. By the time that fire truck has to go all the way around 5 miles.
And the impact fees, especially for lands coming out of agriculture to development, I think that they need to be hit pretty significantly there, the developers.
And that here again would be something back to planning, which then would recommend to council. So we could look at that, but that's where, that would be the order, the steps we would need to take.
Yeah, I was trying to pull the, fee schedule up, but I don't have it in my file, I have it in my office.
Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna, if we're good, I'm gonna move on to the, ag education update, number 10.
Maybe some of these topics, we can talk to the planning commission when we present.
That's what I was saying, they just need to be.
Yep.
That it just needs to move forward there, because it's kind of out of our wheelhouse. So to update you guys real quick on what's happening with ag education. So the teachers, came and they spoke to us in February of last year, and then we moved on, and there's been quite a bit of communication back and forth. There's a couple of the teachers that have been excellent in providing a lot of documentation. Michael Thorsland, Dr. Thorsland has been great in communicating back and forth. He is looking at getting his instructional person, I believe he said it was a Mr. Smith, and then we'll do the subcommittee. We'll sit down and talk with him about the plan for ag. So he feels, and I kind of agree, that Oconee has done, the school district has done an awesome job with having an ag teacher in each middle school, and then 2 at each high school. And I think they've done a really good job with that to promote ag at those levels. We discussed the elementary school and stuff that could be done more there. I know that we have the lady that is the Clemson Extension 4-H person. I talked to her one time, I invited her. I would hope maybe that there's some communication there. I know that's not yours, but do you know?
We're continuously trying to get into the schools as much as possible, and they do embryology programs with them. There's some school garden activities that can go on. That partnership goes both ways.
It does,
We're there to help, and
but you have
we
to
gotta
ask
be-
sometime.
we gotta be asked as well.
Right, that's what I'm saying, you
Beekeepers
gotta ask.
Put a hive in back
Beekeepers
at
have done
school.
some hive stuff, and that's,
I think that
I
part,
think there came into some issues there on who's gonna man it during the summertime and take care of everything. This,
yeah, I
that, and the
think
other.
that's where that comes into play, but
Yeah.
I think they have a pretty decent working relationship. I think the summertime is an issue, because, and that is what prompted the conversation, is we do not have ag teachers that are 240.
That's why that's so important. The 12-month contract is very important.
So that is part of the issue. So that is going to be part of the discussion, but that's just kind of to give you guys an update. I think the teacher that has provided the most information has done an awesome job, and I think they need to have a seat at the table, and I think they can state their case, because when I look at it, they have made a very good case for what they're asking for. Of course, ultimately, it will be up to the administration at the school district and the instruction, and we understand that and we respect their decision, but I think you can look at it and see that there is a need. And I do think that a lot of those teachers, I think all the teachers do a good job. I think they're all working hard, but I do believe that in this particular case, we have a lot of documentation that will help support what we'll be sitting down having a talk with them about. So I just wanted to kind of let you know, hasn't been forgotten. And we haven't forgot about the ag contest. That will also be part of the discussion. Talked with him, I think it was a week and a half ago. He's supposed to be getting me some dates and getting back. I'll try to touch base with him before the week's out so that we can keep that ball rolling. So, but that's all I had with that. The next one is to discuss, so District 2's meeting should be this month. We kind of got off track with last month, vacation and different things. So what we're thinking is next month, if we can come up with a location, we will combine District 1 and District 2. Thoughts, feedback, ideas? The floor is open for discussion.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, Nate, could I ask you to check on Ebenezer?
Yeah, sure.
That is in District 2, but I think it's very close to District 1, and I think it's kind of central, and I think it would work, if that is good with you.
Yeah, I can see what I can do.
Okay, all right. Just as sooner the better, and we'll try to help it. And if you need help, please ask, because I'll help you do whatever. Okay. So I guess I need that in form of a motion from one of the District 2 reps or whatever, if we can make a motion to combine District 1, District 2, and for Nate to check on Ebenezer Community Center. Okay? Brent made the motion, second. You want a second?
Sure.
Second, Nate, all in favor? We're good. And then this brings me, Rex, to help with what you were talking about. The other meeting that we would have would be our November meeting. And so that we're not behind the 8 ball going into January, and hopefully we don't have a lot of changes. I know we're not really changing council, we have some new councilmen coming on. But if we could possibly see about planning out, having that on the agenda, the ag signs, all that kind of planned out, and how we're going to go about 2025 moving forward, so that we have another plan and we're not waiting till January. We still have to elect everybody, you, if you'll keep Tessa or whoever's doing chair and all that kind of stuff, co-chairs. But have a plan and have it drawn out. And then if it needs to change, we can do just like we did for 1 and 2. We can make the changes, but we have a plan moving forward. So the motion is for us to have a strategic planning meeting in November at a set location. We'll have to figure that out. But we need a motion in order to move ahead. So that's what I'm proposing.
Is that the November meeting?
Yes. I'm not going to ask y'all to meet again. We're just going to try to do it and make the plan for 2025 and kind of have everything in order.
Is there a December meeting?
We will have a December meeting.
I agree. I think that you've been wanting to do that. Yeah.
So,
So I move that we have a planning meeting in our November meeting, be a strategic planning meeting.
do I have a second, Charlie? All in favor signify by saying aye. All right. That was all I had. Does anybody else, and that was all that was on our agenda. Does anybody else have anything else? We all have homework, I know that. And if not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
We're adjourned.